Hello everyone, welcome to ChessWiser. Today I have another game from Title Tuesday to share with you all. And this time it was the youngster Denis Lazavik who was paired against Magnus with white pieces, and Magnus was handling the black pieces. Without much delay, let's get started. So here Lazavik starts the game with a 1 d4 and Magnus goes for the knight f6 move, pawn to c4, pawn to g6. So king's Indian setup we are seeing the and here as you can see, white is also trying to do the fianchetto, so it is called king's Indian defense fianchetto variation, or another word is immediate fianchetto. So pawn to c6 trying to strike in the center with the pawn d5, bishop g2, pawn to d5 anyway, knight to f3, bishop g7, and then castles, queen a4, and then knight b d7. So here actually the game is converted into the, after castling, it is converted into the neo Grunfeld. So queen a4 and then knight b d7 was played. C takes d5, knight b6 hitting the queen and also attacking the pawn as well. So queen b3 simply to drop from the attack. Knight f takes d5 and then pawn to e4. Or Magnus kind of invites the pawn to come forward so that he can attack it later, because now the d4 is kind of weak pawn. Knight to c7 and then knight to c3. So here Magnus goes for this interesting variation with the bishop g4. It's because now he's actually preparing to capture the knight, and then he's going to take on the d4 square. And here Lazavik plays this move, rook to d1, just trying to guard the pawn. But here Magnus takes the knight anyway, so bishop f3, and then this is why this variation is interesting, because now Magnus takes on d4, putting the bishop into the self win. I hope you remember the last game which I showed in our channel, where Magnus walked into the deadly pin, and then Nadrodsky simply won that game. So let's see what happens in this game. So here after this self winning, here if you want to attack the bishop immediately, you are not going to gain anything. Say for example, you might be thinking bishop e3 is not going to do much, because now black can play this absolutely best move, that is pawn to e5. And in fact black is already better because he is up a pawn and the bishop is not going anywhere, and you cannot do anything about the bishop. In the next turn I can even put the pawn on c5. So this is the problem. And here if you think about attacking the bishop with the knight, same move is going to help black to centralize his bishop, and you'll be able to hold this okay without much problem. And also here if you say for example in this position, to block this pawn, Lazavik plays e5 himself first. So after e5 he plays knight e6, and here bishop g4. So he is trying to add more defenders, and he is trying to remove the defenders here. So knight to d7, unpinning the bishop here. And also here this is like a tricky move by Magnus, or the Magnus's the typical move from Magnus, this, because here if you simply go for this good looking or the tempting move, this is actually you are running into a problem now, because now I can insert this move knight to c5. This is the problem, or this is the trick Magnus is thinking about. If he takes on e6, you can try the desperado though, but it is still black is the one who is better in this position. But in the game, considering this idea, he did not fall for that, so he played knight to e2 attacking the bishop, and then knight e c5 attacks the queen c2, bishop takes e5. And now as you can see, Magnus is 2 pawns up now. Let's see how young Denis handles this position. Bishop h6 gains the time on the rook here, but now instead of reacting to the threat, he plays bishop to d6. He could have saved the rook actually. Rook to e8 was the best move. After that, even the best choice by white is not going to do that much for black. So black is is happy with the 2 pawns extra. So bishop d6, and then game continues. And here in this position, even the natural looking move, that is bishop g7, is okay. But here after bishop takes g7, king takes d7, we can play the move pawn to b4 and then win the knight on the d7 square. So this is the problem with the natural looking move bishop g7. So in the game he plays d6 directly, but rook e8 was the best choice. Pawn to b4 hits the knight, and then knight goes to a6, hitting the knight pawn back. Bishop takes d7, and again he puts the the bishop in the pin again. So here he plays queen c3, threatening mate in 1. Still the rook is hanging, and now after f6 finally he takes the exchange now. So bishop takes f8, king takes f8. For the time being the position is completely equal. As you know, Already, Lazavik was couple of pawns down, and now he is compensated with the exchange as well. So the position is equal, but in terms of pawn structure, Magnus is obviously better, and now he will try to go into the endgame. Rook a b1 guarding the pawn. Knight to c7 looking to go into the center of the board. Prophylactically moves the queen to b3, queen e6, and now, as I said, now he is looking to go to his favorite part of the game, queen c2 and then queen f5. So here actually white could have accepted this one, considering this damage on the structure. Knight to d4, pawn f4, and then knight f5, knight to d5, knight takes d6, e takes d6. But since it's a blitz game, we cannot think much or analyze much. So he plays the natural looking queen b3. Here actually couple of times the position was repeated, but the third time after queen b3, Magnus played a different move, that is a5. B takes a5 and then rook takes a5, and now the rook is activated. Knight to d4 attacking the queen, and the queen drops all the way back to c8. So here Lazavik takes one pawn, so queen takes b7, queen takes b7, and then rook takes b7. So here for Magnus only there are two moves to consider. Okay, other moves are going to be a losing move for black, and he has to play this move simply to take this hanging pawn. Rook takes a2. Here black's best choice is to play rook to d3, or to simply sacrifice the rook and get the two piece for the rook. So knight e6 check, and then go down this line where you can trap the knight, but it is still kind of a drawn position. So it is very difficult to unpin this knight, and also it is very difficult for black to actually further attack this rook. Okay, you cannot play this move. We can play this move after unpinning, but that allows or that will allow the knight to give check on the task. Say for example, if you move the king here, I can give the check and pick up the rook. So it's a drawn endgame. Okay, you can only make the pawn moves by white, and then the black will repeat the moves between the a and b file. The point is that rook takes a2 was the only move or one of the moves, because there was two moves. Rook a6 was an option, but here he played this move, pawn to c5. This blunders the game immediately. If you want to pause the video, you can pause and try why it's a blunder. Now I'm going to show it. So knight to b3 attacks the rook, and here after this move we place rook takes a2 now, and also knight c6 is going to be the same. So here we place knight b3 attacks the rook, and rook takes a2 was forced, and then rook takes d6, a brilliant rook sacrifice. After e takes d6, rook takes e7, and then pawn to h5, king to g2. This position is completely lost for Magnus, because now Lazavik is just up a piece, but Magnus is having two pawns, but he is, what do you say, it's very difficult for Magnus to hold on to this pawn or prove this two pawns, two passed pawns has have more advantage than this knight. So it's very difficult. King e8, considering the rook's position, as well as the king is kind of active, they can he can come into the game immediately without much problem. So he plays knight c1, attacks the rook d2, king to f3, king to d8, and then rook to f7. After pawn to f5, he plays king e3, attacks the rook d1, attacking the knight, and then knight to d3. So king to e8, and now he forks the pawn. King to d7, guards one pawn, but he loses another pawn. So pawn to c4, knight to b2. That is a fork again. Rook e1 check, and then he plays king to d2, attacking the rook to f1, and then he plays knight takes c4. You cannot guard the f2. You have to give up that pawn. In fact, you have to give up f2 as well as h2. You only need one pawn to win this game. So knight takes e4, and then rook takes f2 check, king e3, rook takes h2, rook takes d6 comes with a check, king to e7, and then rook to h6, king f7, knight to d6 check, king e7, and then knight takes f5 check, king f7, and then king to f3, rook a2, and then rook takes h5. So after rook takes h5, he plays king f6, and then knight to e3. So here actually Magnus simply resigned the game. So why would he resign? It's simply because you cannot stop this pawn queening. It is going to be like a long end game where white is going to win this game. It is very difficult for us to show you the entire process. Maybe the sample run like this. Say for example, let's say you play rook to a7, not rook a6. You should not blunder the rook by this keyword. King to f4, rook a4 check, and then king goes back, and then again you can check force the king back to one side of the board, or maybe, okay, you can ask that the king can always go here, you can go there, but still the rook is going to become active, and I can simply push or improve my pawn's position. So now it's very easy if the king goes to the other side of the board, and now we can already push the pawn to g4, and like that we can simply improve and get the new queen and win the game. So that's why, considering this, Magnus Carlsen simply resigned the game, and Denis Lazavik, or the young Denis Lazavik, beat Magnus for, I think, for the second time, if I am not wrong. And what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and still, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel Chesswiser, consider subscribing to it and press the bell icon to get the instant notification as well. As usual, this is Chesswiser, your wise choice to improve your chess.